Yeah. Do you know who did this? Hi everyone, my name is Natalie, also known as Knitty Natty. Welcome to the 7th, I think it's the 7th episode of the Love and Stitches podcast. Today is Wednesday, February 20th, 2019, and it is a beautiful, beautiful day in Texas. It's about 60 degrees, it was sunny, it was so nice. I got to spend a little bit of time outside and it was really, really nice. But it wasn't too warm that I couldn't wear my brand new cowl, which I'll talk about in just a little bit. I'm having some tea. I don't remember where I got this. I think I got it at a yarn store, but I don't think it was called Tea for You. I think it's the Knitting Cup, maybe. But yeah, I think that's what it was. But I'm drinking some tea, and also full disclosure, I have on pajamas right here because after this, I'm gonna take a nap. It was kind of a rough day. It was up and down, but it ended up being a really good day at work. So, and I was just up really late last night because we went to a Dallas Stars game. So I'm gonna take a little nap before I get back to my knitting and crocheting activities for the night. But first, let's talk about some things. So I don't have anything to share about from the group on Ravelry this week, but you can go join us on Ravelry. Our group is called Love and Stitches. There are lots of people sharing the story of how they started knitting or crocheting, and I just read a new one before I started recording, and it was really good. So it's just fun to see, like where people came from and how we got started and how old we were when we started knitting or crocheting. It's a lot of fun. Toaster is walking around so much. I hope he goes up to the stairs here soon because I know his little claws are kind of a distraction. And he's watching the door, so he might be barking. I hope not too loud. Okay, so let's talk about this. So I finished, this was a test knit for Jen of Webster Street Knittery, and this is called the Truffula Tuft cowl. Now I made the cowl version, but there's also an infinity scarf version, and the infinity scarf version is just gorgeous. I just knew I had other test knits and things I needed to do, so I couldn't do the whole loop, but I do love how mine came out. So I used some yarn that I got in New Orleans. I used, this is Primrose. I've got my tag here, yes. So this is Primrose. This is her Rose Sport Base, and the color is Mischief Managed. So there's Primrose's tag, and it's Rose Sport called Mischief Managed. Now, this pattern does not call for a sport weight yarn. If you watched last week, you'll remember me saying that I totally jumped the gun and bought my yarn before Jen sent out a test call, and I had the wrong yarn. But she said, you can still use it, it's okay. So I kind of got a different effect. Mine is not as fluffy and airy as the people that used a fingering weight single ply, but you can still see that I'm getting that like mohair see-through effect. So the mohair was also Primrose in her mohair Kid Silk Base and Mischief Managed. So it just turned out really beautiful. As you can see, I have a ton of yarn left for both of these, so I definitely could have made it a little bit longer if I wanted to. But this was a really easy pattern. It was perfect for just working on, like, you could take it with you. I took it with me all kinds of places. It has a nice finish with an I-cord bind off, but Jen has a really clever way of picking up stitches, and it made it super easy. Usually I'm like kind of dreading that finishing work of picking up the stitches and doing the I-cord, and it really didn't take me long at all. So I really liked how her instructions were for that. So this cowl, the Truffula Tuft cowl, is going to be releasing sometime next week. It's one of her patterns that she's taking with her to Stitches West, so I think they kind of get like first dibs on it. But yeah, it's a really, if you're really cold, you can just pull it up all the way like that. But I wore it today with this shirt and I really, really liked it. So that's the Truffula Tuft cowl. Okay, I haven't worked on my socks that much. I mean, let me show them to you. They're the rainbow socks, and the rainbow socks are part of, or like my February socks, but I am participating in the Rainbow Along by Suburban Stitcher. And then the Love Equality cowl ended February 14th. That was by This Girl Knits, but I'm still using the hashtag because I still want to see other people knitting their rainbow socks. But I'm using Knitterly Things Vesper sock yarn, and the color is called Golden Hour Harvest. And I'm really enjoying this yarn. It's got sparkle in it in this base. I am getting close to the end of my first sock. So I didn't really like, sock knitting for me is not something I was about to say that I don't enjoy it. Obviously I do. I make a pair of socks every month at least. I like to design socks, but it's not the project that I'm like going to at night to get out or working on at knit night. It's the project that is always there for me, and when I don't know what else to do, or I'm too mentally stressed, or I'm just sitting somewhere and can only knit for a little bit, I work on socks, and for that I love socks. So I was at this marker last week. I have my rainbow marker by Whimsy Stitches, and I love looking at this because this, like, I didn't really work on this at all until yesterday, and I knit all of this in a like training. I was getting trained on something, and so I just had to sit and listen, and I knitted all of that. It just like happened. Of course, it was a 2-hour training session, but I was just knitting away, paying attention, and it helped me absorb all that information that I needed to absorb, and I also was very productive. And then I've got a few rows of ribbing, or rounds of ribbing, and that's just from in the car on the way home today. All the red lights that I was at. But I have this sock planned so that I started the toe in orange, and the foot, there we go. I've got my waist yarn in right here for the foot. So I was able to get 2 repeats of that rainbow in the foot, and then I split the heel in orange. Now, I just kind of got lucky that I was able to do that with my foot size. I wear about a woman's 8, 7.5, 8. So I was just got lucky where I got to go about in the middle of the orange. I still haven't decided on a heel color yet. And then I was decided to repeat what the foot was and did the 2 repeats of the rainbow, and then I'm doing my ribbing in orange. It'll probably end up a little shorter than the stockinette portion of orange, and then I'm gonna bind off, and I think it'll be a nice length of a sock. And then I started the second sock between last week and this week, and I started the second sock because I was going to the movies. I went to see that movie with Rebel Wilson in it. Isn't It Romantic? It was the Valentine's movie that came out last week, and I went with my mother-in-law, and we had lots of popcorn and soda and watched the movie, and we laughed, and I thought it was quite funny. So if you haven't seen it and you're looking for a feel-good movie, I would go see Isn't It Romantic? But I cast on because I wasn't sure if I started knitting in the dark if I would get too far on the heel, or I'm sorry, on the leg of that other sock, which I was in no danger of, but you know. So I did the toe at home, and then during the movies, I knit on this part of it. So now I've got the second sock going. So I just need to finish this one, work the foot of this one, and I'll be kind of like caught up. The way I like to think of my socks is in a month, we've got about 4 weeks. And so every 2 weeks, I like to finish one of the socks. So it's like a foot in the first week, foot of the first sock in the first week, leg of the first sock in the second week, and then same thing, third week, foot of the second sock, fourth week, leg of the second sock. I don't know why that was just so confusing. Hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say, but that's kind of how I think about it. Like each sock has like 2 parts and kind of 2 halves, because I make my legs about as long as my foot. Oh my gosh, that was confusing. This is why I need to take a nap, because my brain hurts. Okay, so I worked on those socks. I actually did do a fair amount on that, but what I've really been putting my time into is the next thing that I have to show you. So I have other whips that have just gotten ignored because I was scrolling through Instagram and I saw Coco Crochet Lee had a new sweater pattern, and she was looking for test crocheters, and I've been watching her like reveal parts of this design for the past couple weeks. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, I have to make this happen. Like, I want to test crochet that. It is adorable. And I'm starting to find that if I am not in a test knit or test crochet type of situation, I'm not as motivated. I'm extremely motivated by deadlines, self-imposed or agreed upon deadlines. I'm super motivated by that. So I thought, I really want to make this. It is so cute. It is perfect for spring. I'll have to get a photo in here for you guys, but I said I would make it, and she said, yes, you can make it. So excited. Now, I'm about to talk a lot about this sweater because I've had some dilemmas on it, and well, let me just start talking about it. I had to take a little tea break before I get going on this sweater. Okay, so like maybe you've seen, I've shown a ton of knitting. I'm a pretty confident knitter. I have knit a variety of things. As you know, I still make mistakes, like a lot, but that's how you learn. And with crochet, I just haven't crocheted as much as knitting, so I haven't had that experience. I haven't made as many mistakes because I haven't taken as many opportunities. So in the past year, I've kind of really gotten into crochet more, and been working on like crochet designs and been wanting to improve my crochet skills. So in the fall, I actually tested another sweater for Coco Crochet Lee, and this is the Thistleberry sweater, and it turned out really, really, really cute. Let me show you. Here it is. It taught me so many things. I did not know how to do post stitches, which is how you do ribbing in crochet. And I know it's red and it's hard to see, but that's like a ribbing. I also learned with post stitches to do cables in crochet. I learned how to do foundation crochet, and I made a sweater. So really, really cute. But I also learned a lesson. This one was self-imposed, I guess. I decided to use an acrylic yarn, 100% acrylic yarn for this sweater, and I don't think it's because it's acrylic. I think it's because that I don't like it. I think it's because it's acrylic and a sweater, if that makes sense. I think for me, having a garment be in a yarn that doesn't give and stretch and breathe is just not very comfortable for me. It's also very heavy and very dense, and you can't really tell. I'm picking it up, and I think this thing would weigh like, I don't know, probably just like a pound, but that's kind of a lot. I feel like it's just kind of heavy, and I wasn't comfortable wearing it. So I want to remake this sweater in a different yarn, maybe in the fall sometime, so that I have like a holiday sweater, because I love it so much. I love the pattern, but I didn't want to have the same issues of my yarn choice in this next crocheted sweater. So I decided I went to McKinney Knittery in McKinney, Texas on Saturday, and I decided I was gonna find my yarn there. And if you're my friend and you were there on Saturday, thank you for dealing with all of my indecisiveness and trying to figure out what yarn I wanted. So I knew I wanted a pink yarn for this sweater. Oh, it's called the Ruffled Romance sweater. I did not even say, but it's super cute with the ruffles and the scallops, and it's just an adorable sweater. So I knew I wanted a pink, and I kind of fell in love with this color, and it is called, I'm showing you the inside of the sweater, I don't know why. It is called Dog Toaster. Oh well. It's called Copper Pink, and this is a Madeline Tosh yarn, and it is absolutely so beautiful. I have both of my yarns in my float tote here in like the little cups, because I didn't want to I don't know why I didn't put the usual socks on them, so I just have it in here. But yeah, so I chose this yarn, but I originally chose it in DK weight, and then we went to lunch and I swatched it, and I just didn't like how it was coming out. It was feeling like this red sweater where it was very bulky and dense and stiff, and I just didn't want to make that same mistake twice. Like, it's my yarn choice. I can make the decision for how the fabric is going to be as long as I meet my gauge and everything. So I went back to the store, and all the hanks that I hadn't used yet, that I didn't have wound, I said, okay, so sorry. I had to just stop several times to get Toaster to stop barking. So hopefully he doesn't again. Now I'm gonna have to go edit and listen to myself being like, stop barking. That's gonna be really great. But anyway, I think I was saying that I swatched with the DK weight yarn and wasn't happy with it. So I took it back, I'd only had one skein wound. So obviously I kept that one and I'm gonna use it for sure. But I took the other ones back and exchanged them for the fingering weight yarn. And I think I left the tag upstairs, but I think this is Madeline Tosh Twist Light. It's like a 2-ply, I believe. I'm untwisting the plies to see. Nope, it is a 3-ply? Here, I'm gonna show you what I'm doing here. What I'm attempting to do is a trick that I saw where you like untwist, there we go, the plies. And that looks like a 3-ply, but it is a really nice lofty yarn, and it was in the color that I loved. They had the same color in DK weight as they did in this one. And so I have got this just like wonderful fabric now that I am so happy with, but that doesn't mean that I avoided all mistakes here. It's all about learning. But let me just show you what it's looking like before I talk a little bit more about it. So this is such a great pattern because it is seamless. It is worked from the neck down. And the wonderful, wonderful thing about crocheted sweaters is that you can try them on without having to put everything on waste yarn. It's so nice. I am losing some of my stitches though. Okay, so as you can see, it's like a circular yoke going on here. And I am hoping, like, I think the neckline looks good. And then these are gonna become sleeves. They're gonna be very ruffly, but I'm thinking that it's looking good. I keep smoothing it down here because that part's gonna go over my bust. And then I'm reaching the point soon where I can take off the sleeve stitches and I can work the body, which I'm really, really excited for. But yeah, I think it's looking really, really cute. It's gonna be extra super ruffly, which is gonna be so awesome. But look at this stitch. Isn't it cool? I learned a new stitch. I have never done it before. It's really easy. This is definitely a beginner pattern. But here's a lesson that I had to learn. I picked a lighter weight yarn, which than the pattern called for, but I still was able to get my stitch gauge. And so I made a really, really good swatch, you guys. I needed to practice my ribbing again in crochet. So I made a swatch where I had the ribbing and then I had the stitch pattern, and I did it in the round, which means I had double the number of stitches, you know, like really good. And I got the stitch gauge. So I thought, let's go, let's get started. And everyone knows, well, if you've knit a sweater before, you know your stitch gauge can kind of change from doing something this big to doing something this big. And it did change slightly, but it's not fitting, like it's fitting me. The problem is I did not measure my row gauge. Because I have a smaller yarn, it is taking me almost twice the number of rows to make like an inch. Like, let's say it's supposed to take me 3 rows to make an inch. It's taking me 5. So it's almost taking me twice as long to make this as it should. But you know what? It's all gonna be worth it in the end because this is so, so, so cute. And I can't wait to get it done. So I'm really hoping I can get this part of it done so I can take these sleeve stitches off, which are gonna be a ton of stitches, right? And then I can just kind of zoom down the body. That's what I'm hoping. So hopefully you'll see this as a finished object next week. I really hope so. But I'm loving it so far. And again, that's the Ruffle Romance Sweater by Coco Crochet Lee. So that's all I've been working on. I've been so focused on that. I tried to work on a design this weekend as well. It was a long weekend, and so I had some extra time. I tried to work on, or I did work on a new design. It just hasn't gotten to the right place yet. So it's not that I didn't work on it, it's just hasn't worked out yet. So I'm excited to get that finally, like that click point where it just like clicks and it works. But let me show you my scarf that I showed last week. So, oh wait, look at this. Yeah. Do you know who did this? Like, this is kind of my fault. It's kind of my fault because Toaster doesn't really get into stuff very often. But he got into this yarn because it had one of those, I don't see one of those like yarn socks on it. But then I thought if I just left it for the day, because I got home Friday night and I really didn't want to like wind this back up. And so I was like, if I just leave it, it was on an ottoman, I'm like, he won't get to it. Well, he did. And so then I still was like, I don't want to deal with it right now. I threw a blanket over it and he got to it again, you guys. So I think that Toaster is starting to get an affinity for mohair, maybe. Or just nice yarn, or just yarn, I don't know, but I wish he would stop. So I really need to take care of this like today before it keeps getting worse. But this is primrose yarn. It's gorgeous. It's primrose yarn, and oh, I didn't know the color last week, but the color is Crazy right now, and it's her plume base. And then this is the scarf that I used it in. Showed it last week. And I also used Malabrigo worsted, which is a single ply. So I had just finished this last week. I still don't have a name for the scarf. I think I've got one, but I haven't totally settled on it yet. But this is an infinity scarf, a pattern of mine that's going to be coming out on March 1st. And my testers are working on theirs and they're doing a great job. Hold on. This dog, y'all. Anyway, I had just finished it last week. So since then I have blocked it. And I don't know if you can tell, but the blocking kind of took the bounce out of it. So I'm not going to be recommending wet blocking for this scarf because it just kind of took some of like the oomph that it had. I mean, it's still very beautiful. You can see the mohair rows even more now that it's blocked, but it kind of doesn't have as much of that like squish that it had before. So I'm a little bit bummed, but I'm happy that I blocked it first so that I can put it in the pattern, not to block it. Now, obviously at some point you're gonna have to wash, your scarf, and that's just inevitable. But yeah, I think that it can go for a few seasons before that happens. And then I've got this, I had filmed this tutorial for this little seam that I call bind off and seam. So yeah, I have that all done now, and this pattern will be out next week, March 1st. So I'm really excited. I'll have more announcements going about the scarf before then. But yeah, that's it this week. Kind of, I need to get that sweater finished so I can get more projects going, so I have more to talk about. I have a lot of things to do. But I'm gonna go take my nap, maybe wind up that mohair yarn, and then work on my sweater, and I can't wait. Until next week, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Bye. Please stop.